Hello everybody! Today I'm going to be talking about the books that I would love to read before the end of the year. Must read? I don't know. Hope to read? Yes. And I will be doing this via the end of the year book tag that was created by Ariel Bissett. So I got these questions because I don't listen to the podcast that she has, but I do watch Meg with Books, so shout out to Meg with Books. And so I kind of went off of the questions that she had, as well as some of the questions that I pulled from a previous end of the year book tag. So the first question is, are there any books that you started this year that you need to finish? Yes, I have two books that I need to finish. Two, not one, two. And one of them is A Summer of Dandelions by Whitney Amazine. This is a small town romance that has a young woman named Addison who is beautiful, really loves kids, wants to, find her purpose in life. She has recently lost her grandmother, and so she was closest to her grandmother, and her grandmother had previously won a Miss Meadow Hills pageant. And so outside of obviously her ambitions of wanting to be a nanny or work with kids, she also wants to become Miss Meadow Hills to honor her grandmother's memory and legacy. And through a series of fortunate and unfortunate events, she does get a nanny job working for Perry. And Perry is a restaurant owner and a businessman that lives in her small town. He makes a lot of money, and he also is going through a lot right now because his partner, the person that he's been with for the longest time, I forgot her name, but she left him and their 4 kids to essentially fend for themselves. And so he is in dire need of help to take care of his kids, or help take care of his kids. So he hires Addison. They are attracted to each other, obviously physically, but they also relate in certain ways regarding, things that they share with each other and talk about and stuff like that. And they both have a huge dilemma where Addison needs, for some reason, she recently broke up with her boyfriend and she needs Perry's help to kind of, pretend to be her boyfriend. And then Perry needs Addison's help to pretend that they're engaged so that his dad will kind of get off his back, because Addison wants to inherit his childhood home, and the only way he's gonna be able to do that if he's married. So very sweet book. I was really enjoying it. I got about 50% into it before I had to stop because it was on KU and I was on a free trial and could not utilize it anymore. So hope to get back to that book before the end of the year and finish it out. The second book that I need to finish is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is a mystery that is following Avery Grams. She is a very smart, intelligent young woman. I believe I think she's either junior in high school. She's getting ready to have her senior year in high school. And her sister are on hard times. They're pretty much orphans, and they are both working a lot to kind of cover their bills and essentially get Avery ready to go to college and make a life for herself. But they get Avery specifically gets a very strange invitation to this meeting with this very wealthy family at this huge estate. And there's a lot of stuff going on, weird things, not strange, like super weird and off-putting, but just like there's something off. She doesn't really know these people. And yet she's invited to be at these, this rich house or whatever, rich family's house. So all I'll say about this, and hopefully this isn't really a spoiler, but it kind of reminds me as I was reading it a little bit of Knives Out, which I love. I love Knives Out. It's one of my favorite movies to rewatch. And it's actually a really good autumnal movie, wink wink, to watch if you're interested in that. So I really did want to continue with this book. But I kind of wanted to focus on some other books at the time. I wasn't as interested in it, but it kept, playing in the back of my mind, like, oh, I need to get back to it. So I did have this paused in my story graph. So hopefully before the end of the year, I can finish this out, see, what it's talking about, and if I'm going to continue on with the rest of the series. All right. The next question is, do you have an autumnal book to transition into the end of the year? And yes, I have The Forgotten Kingdom by Signe Pike. This is a historical fantasy book. I always say it's historical fiction with a little bit of fantastical elements to it, personally. But we are following Langorith, and she is a young queen She is actually this 6th century queen that's pretty much been lost to history. And she is the twin sister of the man who inspired the legend of Merlin. So this is an Arthurian legend, not even a retelling. It's really like about Arthurian legend. Or these are real people that we're kind of having a fictional representation in. I read The Lost Queen, absolutely adored it. And I know that Signe Pike is currently researching in Scotland for book 4. So the books are going to be finished soon, the series. And so I wanted to at least get this one done before the end of the year before I get into the Shadowland, which I also own, that's behind me. And hopefully I'll get to all 3 books before book 4 comes out, because I love to get that, either pre-order it or to get it in the bookstore. So yes, really enjoyed this. This is a perfect, I think, book for that time of year of fall or autumn, you know, depending on who you ask, because it's set in Scotland. It's the atmosphere that was created and cultivated in The Lost Queen. Like, it's a similar feel. I started reading, spoiler, I read like about 30% of this book already, and same feelings. It's so good. So yeah, hopefully I get to finish this book out and transition into the fall season, which we're kind of sort of in right now. Next is there a new release that you're still waiting for? So here's the thing. There are quite a few books that I am waiting for, but they're not new releases for 2025. They're new releases for 2026. So I will be sharing my 2026 new releases that I'm like really excited for in another video, but we're going to answer this in a way that speaks to 2025. And there are quite a few 2025 new releases that I have not gotten to yet. I had a whole like must reads list for 2025 and I've only gotten to 2 of them. So I'm going to just rapid fire a few of the titles that come to mind that I really would like to get to as soon as possible. And that's Red Clay, which is a multi-generational family saga following a family who was working on a plantation, and, you know, the generations that were connected to that family, as well as the family that owned them and their connections. So yeah, sounds interesting, right? Heard only good things. I'm really looking forward to getting to that. The Sable Cloak. This is a book that I believe is set during pre-Civil War in the South, and is following a Black family that is wealthy. And also there's a lot of like small town intrigue that takes place in this story as well, as from what I got from a very quick swipe and perusal of the synopsis. Happy Land, which is a book that is about Queen Luella Montgomery, who was the one and only queen that reigned on American soil. And she reigned over the Happy Land, which was a kingdom in Appalachia. And I read a book, The American Queen, yep, so there, The American Queen by Vanessa Miller. And so this is kind of another book following the same historical figure. Next was a book actually by Vanessa Miller also, and that is The Filling Station, that came out, I believe, in January of this year. And it is, I believe, following a family or a young woman and her family. And this is set in the 1920s Tulsa. And I believe this is before the Tulsa race massacre that took place. That is just a few books. There are quite a few, maybe even too many to count, but those are some of the books that I hope to read before the end of the year. Let's see if I get to some of them before the end of the year. Next is, what are 3 books you want to read before the end of the year? So one of them is, where is that? One of them is Yellow Wife by Sadika Johnson. This is a historical fiction book that is, it says, one woman's captivating tale of survival in the most notorious slave prison of the antebellum South. I don't really know much about this book other than that it is almost like a slave narrative, and it's very gripping. And that someone has said before that if you love historical fiction, or if you say you love historical fiction, that you need to read Sadika Johnson. So I want to get to this before the end of the year and see what my thoughts are. I bought it because I knew that, you know, she's a highly beloved author. So I want to get to that hopefully before the end of the year. I also wanted to read The Principle of Moments by Esme Jakimi Pearson. This is a space opera that is dual timeline. And that is all that I know about this book, really. I read I almost dropped it. I read a little bit of the synopsis, but not too much. But it says, it is on the bottom, it says it's a love letter to Black readers of science fantasy, a symphonic century-spanning adventure unmissable for fans of spacefaring found family, the alternate London, and the virtuosic. I'm about to. I don't even know if that's a word. A virtuous climate craft of N.K. Jemisin. Wow, I was struggling with that word. I don't even know if I got it right. But yes, this is book one of a. I think it's gonna be a duology. And I think book two comes out in January. So if I get to this, at least by December, I'll be golden for January. Golden. And I'm looking forward to that. And the last book that I want to read before the end of the year is Black Gotham, a family history of African Americans in 19th century New York City by Carla L. Peterson. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, which you should, go ahead, at GabbyLikesToRead on Instagram. If you follow me on Instagram, if you've paid attention to any of my wrap-ups or my TBR, you know that I was obsessed with The Gilded Age this year. Crazy obsessed with it. Love, one of my favorite, if not my favorite TV show of all time. Definitely my favorite TV show this year. This season 3 was amazing. And so I heard that when Jillian Fellows was kind of pitching or coming up with the idea for The Gilded Age and the incorporation of Black life in The Gilded Age, or the Black elite specifically, he picked up this book and read it. And then he talked with the historical consultant, Dr. Erica Armstrong Dunbar, about this book. And she said, he was like, hey, have you read this book? And she's like, yeah, of course I read it. My friend actually wrote this book. And so I said, say less. I want to pick this up and read it. So hopefully before the end of the year, I would like to get to this. I was going to do this. I'm trying to think. I was like thinking about when I was going to get to this, and I decided that I was going to read this maybe towards the end of the year, a little bit closer. So we shall see. I'm really excited to hopefully get to this. This is another nonfiction read kind of tagged that I can get to before the end of the year. All right, next question. Is there a book that you think could still shock you and become your favorite book of the year? Yes. That book is Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange. He is the author of the modern classic There There. There There was one of my favorite books of 2024. It was amazing, so good. Still sticks with me. I still think about this book to this day. And so I was really excited when I heard that the kind of sequel or just another book by Tommy Orange was coming out. But I really want to get it in paperback because I wanted it to be the same. Hopefully, I never even checked this. Oh yeah, it is the same. Okay, yeah, it's the same height as There. But yeah, I wanted to get it in paperback so I could, have it next to each other once I finish it. And I just like I don't like having books by authors that are in different formats if possible, especially because I think this is supposed to be set up as either a prequel or a sequel of There. But yes. I love There, so I'm really looking forward to reading this. And while I'm not really I wouldn't be surprised necessarily if this became a 5-star or not 5-star rate. If this became my favorite book of the year, I'd be more surprised just because I have no idea what my favorite book of the year would be so far. I've not even thought about that. Okay, what trends have I noticed in my reading this year? So some of them are ones that I was hoping to implement a little bit more, which is slow reading. I went into this year wanting to be a little bit more intentional about not just the books that I was reading, but also the pace at which I was reading. I wanted to prioritize writing reviews. I wanted to prioritize taking the time to formulate my thoughts before conveying it, taking some time in between books to take care of certain other hobbies that I enjoy. Read a lot of mysteries. That was not on my bingo board. If you would have asked me January 2025, hey Gabby, you're gonna, or told me that I was gonna read a lot of mysteries this year, I would be very surprised. But through some buddy reads with my bestie Jillian, and also a few other mysteries I've just picked up, trying to get to some of them that are on my physical TBR. I've read quite a few mysteries this year, which I'm not complaining. I've had a great time so far. Also, I've been reading a ton of historical fiction, which has been fantastic. That is one of my priorities really for 2025, was to kind of get back to historical fiction, not read as much fantasy as I did in 2024, which I still read quite a bit, but I'm really happy that I was able to get back into the genre that I really love the most and get the most enjoyment out of. So that has been really fun. How do you feel about your reading goals? anything you want to change, adjust, or abandon? Well, I do feel like I'm going to hit my reading goal of 40 books. I'm at like 35 books as of this recording. So I'm really curious to see what books will be my final 5 that I get to before the end of the year. But I do think I'm either going to meet or exceed that goal. I am not going to get my TBR down to 50 before the end of the year. That was very ambitious, but I don't see that happening. So we'll see. But I do think that is going to happen probably sometime next year. But again, we'll see about that. So I would probably adjust that a little bit. But if I got it to at least, I would say right now I'm a little bit, well, I'm under 100 right now. So if I could get it maybe at least down to maybe 75 before the end of the year, that would be great. But hey, we'll see. We will see about that. Also, I have been reading a little bit. I'm trying to think. I've read More Men, books by male authors. That has happened. But I haven't reread anything. That's the one thing that I try to reread like more every year. I always say I'm gonna go reread more, but I just don't do it. So I guess I would have to make some adjustments in my TBR. Like once I get my TBR down, I'll feel more comfortable rereading. But right now I have a lot of books that I even have that are unread, that are part of series or that are continuation of a series. So for example, I have The Rivers, there it goes right there, The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. And this is like a short story collection based off of the David trilogy, but it's been a long time since I've read the David trilogy, so I would have to reread that in order to finish this. So it depends on where I'm at with my TBR. If I'm getting to a point where I'm like, oh, well, when it comes to like a fantasy book, like if I have a prompt that asks me to read a fantasy book and it's off my TBR from, my TBR game, it might be just this left. And so in that case, I might have to reread in order to get to this. So we'll see. We'll see about that. Okay, have you already started making reading plans for next year? Yes. So one of them is obviously, as I've said, I want to get my TBR down to 50 before the end of 2026. Now I'm stating it now. 2026, I will get my TBR at least to 50. That is the goal. That is the hope. Also, one way that I want to kind of kickstart my reading when I'm starting out 2026 is doing 75 booked. I don't know who the original creator is. I'll probably link in the description or flash it on the screen or something like that if I find out who the original creator is. But I have seen, people like the Story Ain't Over and Peruse Project do this on Instagram. And I've really enjoyed my time kind of catching up with them to see how they're kickstarting their reading and, doing their book buying ban and all the things. So hopefully that will help me, because Q1 is definitely hit or miss for me when it comes to my reading. Sometimes I read a bunch. Like January, I'll read like 10 books. And then February, I'll read no books. And then March, I'll read like 5. And then it's just kind of a downward trajectory for the rest of the year. So hopefully with that kind of 75, so maybe 2.5 months of prioritize reading, that will help me to sustain a good pace for the rest of the year. So that is something I'm really excited about. Also, really excited about changing up my goal. So I'm going to go back up to 52 books for the year. I like reading weekly, or at least finishing a book a week. I like that pace. So I would like to kind of get back to that, hopefully in 2026. And then I will be doing a reading journal, I'll be creating a reading journal for 2026 and maintaining it throughout the year. I'm really excited about that. I've been watching a lot of videos for inspiration, not just on YouTube, but on Instagram as well. So I have quite a few ideas. I already got the journal, I got some supplies. So I'm looking forward to working on that and prepping that for 2026. And I think it's gonna be really helpful for me to do some tactile creativity and also to have like another option versus just like when I'm listening to the audiobook and maybe walking or playing a video game or something like that, that I actually could listen to an audiobook while I'm working on my journal. And then also having the reading journal. I'm a writing person. I like taking actual physical notes. So writing things down will help me to kind of retain not just the information, but the story, the character development, all the things I want to take note of and talk about in a review. So I'm looking forward to that. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But yeah, those are all of the questions. So thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe if you would like to join the fam and hang out with us a little bit more. And also consider yourself tagged if you were watching this video. Feel free to answer any of these questions in the comments below. I would love to hear responses, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.